welcome back to Let's Listen to Brickroad bitch endlessly about bad cameras. I did some research. I actually, after recording that last video, I decided to see if I could figure out what this game's problem was, and I learned some things. First of all, the first thing I learned, that whole invisible damage thing that I was crying about at the last video, that was an interlacing issue. That was my PS3 and my capture card not getting along properly, so I couldn't see the lasers on screen, even though it did actually record them to the video. So, a bunch of you probably just, were watching the last video, like, what is he talking about? He's jumping into lasers. I was, but I couldn't see that I was jumping into lasers. That's not the game's fault. I was already way too frustrated at the game to deal with that, apparently, so I just blamed it on the game. So I do owe Sonic Adventure 2 an apology. It did not just damage me with invisible monsters or whatever. Is this the same boss that I had to fight with Sonic and Shadow? But Rogue doesn't have a homing shot. Ooh, I called her Rogue. Everybody's gonna get upset with me about that. Can I... That didn't work. Get a ring. Get out. Get a ring. Get out from under him. Oh my goodness. But I just had to know. I have to know why the camera in this game is so bad. So, not knowing a lot about Sonic Adventure games, let's try getting above him and then like drop kick him on top of him. That didn't seem to do anything. Maybe I gotta wait till after he's done shooting missiles at me, perhaps? I don't know. She's like doing a ballet dance on his head there, glitching around, whatever. So the first thing I thought, okay, well, Mario 64 had pretty goddamn good camera controls, considering it was kind of the first game of its pedigree. But one of the reasons it was able to do that was it had like 4 extra buttons on the controller that like no other controller had had. It had all those C buttons specifically added for camera controls. So that was my first thought. Maybe the Dreamcast didn't have... Can I get it from behind, maybe? Oh, I did damage him. I just had to take damage while I was damaging him. Good to know. I've never actually played a Dreamcast or seen one in use, so I looked up what the Dreamcast controller looked like, and no, it's got enough buttons. Like, I know the game has the shoulder buttons that rotate the camera, but it also has like a D-pad, which as far as I know goes completely unused. That could have been used for much finer camera controls, as well as like activating a free look, zooming in and out, that kind of thing. Not exactly in a great space on the controller, not really. I didn't damage him that time. Or that time. I wonder why not. But it could have worked. So, the other thing I was thinking, well, this game came out in kind of a really weird era for 3D games. Like, it came out in like 2001, and I remember a lot of games from that era had kind of bad cameras. Not quite this bad, but a lot of them did. So I wanted to look up, to refresh my memory, what its contemporaries were like. What kind of action-adventure games came out in that era. But, we're talking about things like Majora's Mask, Metal Gear Solid 1 and 2, if you go back to like 1998. Like, Wind Waker came out a couple years after that. Do I gotta wait for him to do something? No, apparently not. I might just have to get above him, and... That didn't seem to do it. She can't spin jump the way Sonic and Shadow can, so I'm not really sure what I'm doing here. I thought maybe I could just glide into him and deal damage, because that's how you kill some of the robots, but that does not seem to be the case. Ooh, and he missiled me out of the air. That didn't work at all. Okay, yeah, you just punch him right there in the cockpit. We gotta be, like, dead on, though. Running out of rings. That's gonna miss me because the target's way over there. So right after he's done with his missiles. So, yeah, I don't know. So what I did was I made a list of all the, like, an exhaustive list of all the games I played in that era from about 1998 to about 2002 in the Sonic Adventure 2 era. That comes right in about the end of the N64 era, PS1 era, early GameCube and PS2. And I didn't play a lot of action-adventure games at that time. I played almost exclusively RPGs. However, I did play some. And that just missed. I don't know why that missed. I was trying to figure out what other games, like, are Sonic Adventure 2 contemporaries, and how did they do their cameras, and a lot of it comes down to what kind of game is it. And I think that's a really big deal. For example, Metal Gear Solid has one of my favorite cameras in 3D gaming, but it's like a stealth and exploration game, not so much like platforming and things like that. So it's good to have like a pulled out, almost top-down camera. And that works really well for that style of game. That didn't work. So I can't get him while he's charging. Get that ring, get that ring, get that ring! You missed the ring. She doesn't even close her eyes when she lays down defeated. But what I found was there were 2 games in that time period that I did play extensively that I thought had really atrocious cameras. And they were Kingdom Hearts and Grand Theft Auto Vice City, which if you have been watching my weekly streams, you may have seen me play Vice City and complain endlessly about its atrocious camera. And it's because it's not because the camera is bad per se, it's because it doesn't have the kind of camera conducive to its gameplay. Like Kingdom Hearts is the same way. Kingdom Hearts is like an action RPG kind of thing, where you're like running around big levels and hitting monsters with a sword, and you have like lock-on attacks and things. But the camera in that game like wants to be right up Sora's butt. Like it wants to be right in the action. So you're always seeing like the back of Sora's head and maybe one monster. Like the game has platforming elements, but you can't always see the platform you're standing on or the platform you're jumping to. Like that game would have been much better if the camera would have just pulled the hell back about 20 feet. It would have been fine. And I really like look how close the camera is to Rouge here. How come I can't damage him sometimes? I don't get it. Like she doesn't jump high enough. I guess I have to jump off the wall. That's what I've got to do. Is come off the wall and get him that way. Or not. Okay, I'm not sure what to do then. Like she has that dropping attack, but that didn't seem to do anything. I'll try it again. Maybe I just did it wrong. But I'm sure after I lose a couple more lives, Chao will just tell me what the hell I'm doing wrong. And I got missiled off that wall. Dang it. Like, this camera just wants to keep, like, Rouge in between the camera and the boss. Like, no matter where I run to, it's going to try to keep me in between. But that's not necessarily what I want. So, like, the closer I get to the boss, that's why it wigs out when I get underneath it. So it's just a matter of the game does not have a very good camera conducive for the kind of gameplay it has. That's really the big issue. Like last video, I was like going nuts. I was like bitching about the level design and the play testers and a bunch of other stuff, but really probably none of that was the issue. Like the level design in the game is not bad. The actual levels, the way they're laid out, what you have to do and where you have to go is fine. The controls are pretty much fine considering that the game tries to be like really speedy. Okay, yeah, that's what you have to do. I was just doing it wrong for some reason. I'll just do that 3 more times and win this fight. So that's really what it comes down to. It's just the camera is just bad because it doesn't fit well for the speedy gameplay. The game that was most similar to Sonic Adventure 2 on my list of games that I played, keeping in mind that I didn't play a lot of these kinds of games extensively, believe it or not, was Sonic Hedgehog Pro Skater 3, which you might think is like an extreme sports skateboarding game, but it's actually... Got him. Nice. Okay, that was a fun boss fight as soon as I figured out how to kill him. Because they reused the same boss, but with a new character, different moveset, kind of had to change it up a bit. Thank God it's not the Ghost boss. I'm just happy it wasn't King Boom Boo again. Tony Hawk is not really a skateboarding game so much as like a find the line game. Like you're skating around these environments and you're looking for a line to skate on. Like where can I trick off of? What can I grind? Can I manual between these two things? That's why I thought the game was really fun. Like finding an efficient way to get through an environment and then really pushing yourself to do it better and faster and with more tricks, etc. And the camera in that game was pulled back so you could see a lot of the game world at once. Your character would be like kind of in the middle of the screen and be skating around, and at any given time you could see all of the geography around you. And that is really what I think that this Sonic game needs. You need to be running around. Like these areas where you're kind of running down a half pipe, you're just kind of going straight ahead like a roller coaster kind of thing. I think the camera being directly behind you is fine. But... Lorg! But when you're getting into the platforming sections and the camera tries to pick like a stylish angle and tries to pull in real close and especially in the Rouge and the Knuckles sections, where you kind of really have to be freeform and be able to go in any direction at once. It would really benefit from just getting out of your way and pulling back and not constantly trying to reassert itself. Not trying to pick the best angle for you. Kind of do a somersault. Yeah, okay. And I just did a somersault and fell down to the ground. Like right here, look how close the camera is to Shadow. It's like I can't... If it would pull back about 20 or 30 feet, I'd be able to see both that geography and this geography. I'd be able to see everything I need to see. But you kind of have to pick and choose. And as a result... Why can't I just somersault down there? Oh, my monsters. Monsters. Hey, a free guy. I'll take that. Look what the camera... Like, it wants to point one direction all the time. Why can't I just tell the camera where I want it to stay? Behave, Lucky 2. Anyway, I've been talking about camera nonsense forever, but that's really the big issue that I'm having with this game. In Sonic Generations, which is the previous Sonic game, 3D Sonic game that I played and really, really enjoyed, the camera only had like two settings. It was either like behind you in these forward kind of roller coaster segments, which in a lot of ways was similar to Tony Hawk in that you're just kind of looking for a line. Get under there. Shadow, what are you doing? Why can't I... Oh, can I break through there maybe? No, he just went under it. He just wouldn't do it the first couple times. For some reason, I don't know. Like either the camera's behind you in the roller coaster segments, or it's a side scroller and it just gets off to the side. And either way, the camera's not in your way. So I don't know, a lot of games really do benefit from having a camera that tries to pick the best, like, most cinematic angle at any given time, but this is not one of them. I think this game with a fixed camera would be definitely playable and probably very enjoyable. And the parts of it that I don't like are the parts where the camera just screws with me. Like, that last Rouge level, my goodness, it wasn't just the camera, it was just the perfect storm of everything. Like, having, like, the really awfully written hints that made no sense and were almost never relevant in a level that I didn't, like, the game assumes you know the level well when you don't, and there's no way that you can because it just drops you in here saying, hey, you know, 5 minutes, find the whatevers. Why can't... Oh, you have to be right up against them. You can't spin dash into them. You have to be right up against them. I got it. I don't know. I didn't want to spend too much time, like, giving my camera design thesis or whatever, but man, after rewatching the footage in that last video, it was freaking embarrassing how bad it was. Do I not have my light speed dash yet?
Have you tried using the light dash to collect all the things suspended in the air?
I would love to, but I don't think Shadow has it. So, is it around here somewhere? Or do I just need... Was I just not close enough? Oh man, I collected the closest ring, so it's not going to give it to me unless I jump out there. Wait a minute. No, Shadow doesn't have the light speed dash. Okay. Am I missing something? Did I not pick it up? Or... Just that animation looks so bad, his ice skating animation, when it's in fast forward like that. Excuse you. And you. Yeah, Shadow doesn't have the light speed dash, so I guess I must have to pick it up like right here somewhere. Ah, here we go. It's gonna be down here. So now what? Now where do I go? Oh, under here, I bet. Oh, I see. Okay, that somersault move, if you press it once, he just does a forward somersault. And if you hold it, he does a spin. Why did they put that on the same button? That is so confusing. I keep thinking I've got a spin underneath there. That is so confusing. Come on, the Dreamcast definitely had enough buttons to do that. That's just a holdback to the old, like, Genesis Sonic games, where he mapped, just, like, all three buttons did the same thing. Wow, okay. We're good now. Now that I know to do that, that would have been a lot more helpful in the Sonic stages, I guess. The other thing that I did was I read the instruction manual for this game. Like, PSN downloads come with like a virtual instruction manual. Because I kept thinking, is there like a free look or something I'm missing? Is there finer camera controls that I just don't understand how to use? Or, like, what the dealio? But, let's get this, ooh, rangs. I like some rangs. Oh, only 6 each. And I got a Chao head. But no, I wasn't missing anything as far as the camera was concerned. The other thing I was going to do was, maybe I'll read up on how the Chao World works. And then I started to, and I read what, like, the little doodads and the flickies and the crystal potion containers or whatever you pick up.
I guess I'm not at full power.
But my eyes just glazed over, and I decided, redoubled my effort that I don't want to do anything in the Chao World, so I'm just not.